If you're struggling right now, it's because we've all had this 20th century education. And a 20th century education prepared us for a 20th century world, which at the turn of the century is working in farms and factories. And that's what a lot of the education system was tailored to, right? It's one size fits all, sit quietly, by yourself, don't talk to your neighbor, and so on. Now it's changed, it has changed, but the world's changed a lot faster. Is that fair? I get to do a lot of training for SpaceX, and I posted a picture recently, with Elon and everyone in the audience there, and I trained some of the most amazing brains. But think about Elon, right? In his world, we live in an age of electric cars and spaceships that are going to Mars. But our vehicle of choice that we choose when it comes to learning is like a horse and carriage. Do you feel that? Do you feel like you're falling behind more and more and more? That you can't keep up? Like, how do you get ahead in this world when you feel like you're falling behind? When you understand how your brain works, you could work your brain. And so the truth is, every single one of you could do this. We just weren't taught how to do this. All right? If anything, we were taught a lie, that somehow our intelligence, our potential, our memory is somehow fixed like our shoe size. But really what this is about, the essence of what we're talking about here is about transcending, ending the trance. That's what transcendence is for me, ending this trance, ending this mass hypnosis that somehow, we're limited, somehow like something is fixed, right? That our powers are something, that we're not as strong and capable as we are, that we're not enough. And so if I ask you to don't think of a big pink elephant, whatever you do, don't think of a big pink elephant in front of this room, pink polka dot elephant. What are you gonna do? You're gonna think about it because your mind can't process a negative. Your mind can't process a negative. That's why we always do affirmations in the positive. It's not something you don't want, it's something you want, because your mind can't process a negative, right? Because it has to think about what you don't want to in order to be able to do it, right? And so what you resist persists. So don't try to not think about everything going on. Just write it down so you know it's there, and then you can focus, right? The thing that you want to forget are your limitations. Are we ready to cover that? Limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs. Because if you believe you can and believe you can't, either way, you're right. Here's what you want to remember. You know who has a really good memory? Elephants, right? What animal? Elephants. You ever notice the elephant, like the elephant at the circus, and you wonder why it's tied to this rope, to the stake in the ground, and you wonder why it just doesn't leave? Because it's an elephant, right? It is incredibly strong. It's incredibly huge. We could pull down the whole circus tent, but why doesn't it? Because since that elephant's been born, it's been tied to that same rope with the same stake in the ground. And when it was first born, it would try to get its freedom. It wants its sovereignty, right? It would pull, and it would struggle for days, maybe a week or so. But after a week or so, what happens? It learns something. It learns it's helpless. And in psychology, it's called learned helplessness. Because what happens over time? That elephant gets big and strong, right? And it's physically capable of escaping, but it's not mentally capable. Does that make sense? Because all behavior is belief driven. Think about you believe how smart you are. Do people have a belief how much they're worth financially? Yes or yes? They're gonna set that thermostat and the environment's gonna reflect. There's a success formula I subscribe to. I believe it's this: be, do, have, share. In that sequence, because the syntax is very important here. Be, do, have, share. Now, it's kind of interesting because some people try to reverse engineer this or actually put something that's later, something former, right? Somebody could, you've heard this before, right? Where somebody wins the lottery, all of a sudden they're at the have stage and they have millions of dollars. What happens after years? What happens to their financial situation? Right, it's all gone, right? Because they were given or they have millions of dollars, but starting with the B, they were never a millionaire. Does that make sense? Right, so they never had to be able to do those things, so it went back to that thermostat. Does that make sense? Now, in order to be, do, have, share, in order to have anything to share with the world, you need to be able to do something. Is that true? Right, because it's not just the law of attraction, it's the law of action, right? You're taking action on things. And so, in order to be able to do something, you need a belief that allows you to do that behavior, okay? So for example, if for somebody, let's say that they have trouble remembering names, if you have a belief, a sense of certainty around this idea that you're not good with names, what's gonna happen? You're not gonna remember. I remember I was preparing to run a marathon and I was reading this book on training, and one of the chapters was on the psychology of running a marathon. It said this: your brain is a supercomputer and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself you're not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to. Does that make sense? Because here's the thing, a lot of times people go and just like, they come to me and say, Jim, I'm too old, or this runs in my family, or I'm just not smart enough, or I have a horrible memory. But I always tell people, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them, right? If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you argue for your limits, they're yours, right? And so you always wanted to monitor your self-talk, always monitor your self-talk, because here's why, your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. Here's the thing, you could go 50% further in your health, in your relationships, right? In your grades, right? But it's having that belief that says you can do it. Because here's what you always want to remember, all behavior is belief-driven. All behavior is belief-driven. In order to do a new behavior, you need an empowering belief that allows you to do that behavior. And so when we do this visualization exercise, it's not just limited to students, right? I do this with executives. I do this with athletes a lot. I'll give you an example. What did Roger Bannister do in 1954? What is he famous for? The 4-minute mile, right? Throughout human history, nobody can run a mile in less than 4 minutes, right? And how was he able to do it? It wasn't just physical training, he would do mental training, right? He would visualize himself crossing the finish line, looking at the clock, and it said 3:59. Because he knows what you know, that success is an inside-out process. Here's the thing, it's not you'll believe it when you see it. It's you'll see it when you believe it. Does that make sense? When you actually see it, when you believe it in here, because all behavior is belief-driven. So he was able to do it because he saw 3:59 in his mind, then he was able to do it out here, right? And that's what entrepreneurs do, right? Entrepreneurs solve big problems, they create new value because they have this vision for what they want to create in their mind, and then it becomes external, right? Inside out process. Be, do, have, share. So you have to be that before you be able to do it, to be able to have it. Now here's what I find interesting. I didn't find it interesting that he broke the 4-minute mile by visualizing. What I found interesting is what happened after that. Throughout human history, nobody can run a mile in less than 4 minutes. One person does it. What happens after that? Yeah, everyone starts running a 4-minute mile. Dozens of people start doing it in the next couple years. Now let me ask you a question. Was there big advancements in shoe technology and nutritional support and training methodology? No, what was the change? A change in belief. Because you know what the belief was back then? The belief was the human heart couldn't sustain a sub 4-minute mile. So it would explode in your chest. Now, if you believe that, would that keep you from running a sub 4-minute mile? Like that would keep me from jogging, right? Nobody would do anything because no one would do anything because all behavior is belief driven, right? Then all of a sudden one person does it, then everybody starts to do it, right? And that's the power of a belief.